Captain Elias Ward had seen more stars than he could count, but none had ever made him stop and listen. The galaxy was loud, radio chatter, distress signals, diplomatic noise between worlds that barely tolerated each other. Yet that night, as his ship drifted through the quiet rim of the Seraphis Nebula, a whisper broke through the static. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't coded. It was a voice, soft, melodic, trembling like light across water. Elias. He froze. The sound wasn't coming through his translator. It wasn't mechanical. It was direct, like the stars themselves had spoken his name. Elias looked over the console, confused. His AI companion, Nira, flickered to life, her holographic form glowing faintly blue. "Captain, you're receiving an untraceable transmission. No frequency ID, no signal origin." "Run a scan," he said, trying to steady his breathing. "Someone just called my name." The AI blinked. "Confirmed. The transmission carries emotion. That word hit him harder than any weapon could. In all his years exploring alien frontiers, he'd heard thousands of voices, diplomats, soldiers, traitors, but never one that felt. And then it came again, clearer. Elias Ward of Terra. "Can you hear me?" The voice carried warmth and sorrow, as if every syllable had been carved out of longing. He swallowed hard. "Identify yourself." For a moment, the cosmos held its breath. Then, through the lightless expanse, he saw it, an energy bloom unfolding beyond the nebula. Colors swirled like a living aurora, forming a shape too graceful to be coincidence. A vessel, alien but elegant. Nira's tone dropped. Unknown ship class. No registry. Its core signature matches pre-Federation archives. "Impossible age," Elias leaned forward. "Open visual." The screen shimmered, and there, amid the halo of light, stood a figure. Tall, slender, cloaked in silver fabric that shimmered like morning mist. Her skin had the faint hue of starlight, her eyes deep and luminous like twin moons. "Human of Terra," she said softly. "Do you remember the Accord of Solace?" Elias frowned. "That's ancient history. It happened 1,000 years ago, before our kind even left our system." Her expression wavered like a memory surfacing through centuries. "Time moves differently for my kind. I was there, when your people first reached out to the stars. I remember your promise, my promise," he whispered. She stepped closer on the transmission feed. "You said you would return." The bridge went silent. Elias felt something stir inside him, a strange ache like nostalgia for a life he had never lived. "You've mistaken me for someone else," he said softly. "No," she whispered. "The blood remembers even if the mind forgets. The bond between our worlds was sealed through you." Nira's voice broke the silence. "Captain, her genetic pattern shows trace compatibility with early human DNA, possibly linked through ancestral contact." Elias stared at the hologram, the words failing him. This wasn't just a first contact. This was recontact. The alien princess tilted her head, eyes shimmering with tears that caught the starlight. "Your ancestors called me Asha. I was the voice that answered humanity's first message." Elias's throat tightened. The name echoed like a chord through his mind, and then, with a gentleness that defied time and distance, she whispered again, so softly the universe itself seemed to listen. "Elias." And his heart stopped in awe. For a long moment, Elias couldn't speak. The silence stretched between them like the void between galaxies. The alien princess, Asha, stood bathed in her ship's radiant glow, her expression calm but filled with a sorrow too deep for words. Nira's voice trembled through the comms, rare for an AI. "Captain, her energy readings are stable but ancient. She's radiating the same frequency as the ruins on Luna's dark side." Elias blinked. "The pre-colonial ruins? Those were never explained." "Exactly. The same pattern, the same harmonic field," Nira replied. "She's connected to our earliest space signals before humans even had warp drives." Elias turned back to the screen. "Asha, you said our ancestors made a promise. What kind of promise?" The princess's gaze drifted toward the stars, her voice soft like a melody remembered in dreams. "A promise of unity, of understanding. Long ago, when your kind first looked up at the heavens and dared to speak, I heard you. I was young then, curious like your first explorers. I sent a signal in return." Elias's pulse quickened. "You mean the early deep space transmission, the beacon of Sol?" Asha nodded slowly. Yes, you sent words and I sent a song. For centuries, we spoke across the dark, learning each other's hearts without meeting face to face. But then, you stopped replying. Elias leaned back in his chair, trying to process the impossible. The ancient legends of humanity's first contact, the celestial whisper, weren't myths. They were her. We stopped because our world fell into chaos, he murmured. Wars, greed, fear. We forgot what the stars meant. Her luminous eyes dimmed. I waited. I watched your skies fade into silence. When the last signal ceased, I thought humanity had perished. The quiet pain in her voice made something twist inside him. There was no accusation in her tone, only loss. But why now? He asked. Why reach out to me? Asha stepped closer to the transmission feed, her shimmering aura bending light around her. Because the old accord is fading. The ancient pact that binds our worlds is unraveling. If it fails completely, both our species will forget each other forever. The memory itself will vanish from time. Elias's brow furrowed. You're saying our history could be erased? Yes, she said simply. The accord was woven through shared remembrance. It exists because both sides believe in it. But your people no longer remember me, and mine have turned away. He could see the loneliness behind her regal calm, the weight of being remembered by no one. Nira spoke quietly. Captain, I detect emotional synchronization. Your heart rate and her energy resonance are matching. Elias ignored the data. He was too focused on Asha's trembling voice. If the accord depends on memory, how do we restore it? She looked directly at him. By remembering together, one human must awaken the promise once made, and one of my kind must answer. That is why I called your name. The words settled over him like a revelation. Out of all the billions of humans, she had remembered him. I don't know how to remember something I never lived, he whispered. You will, she said gently, because memory is not only of the mind, it's of the soul, and yours, carries the echo of the first to speak my name. Outside the viewport, the stars shimmered brighter, as if listening to her every word. Asha smiled faintly. Your people once promised that when the stars grew cold, humanity would light them again. Tell me, Elias Ward of Terra, do your people still believe in that? He wanted to answer, but all he could do was look into her eyes and feel the forgotten warmth of a promise he never made, yet somehow remembered. For the next few hours, Elias said nothing. His ship drifted beside Asha's radiant vessel, silent among the stars. The two crafts, human steel and alien light, hung in the void like old friends who didn't yet know how to speak again. Inside the command deck, the only sounds were the hum of engines and the soft, rhythmic flicker of Asha's transmission. She hadn't disappeared, yet she hadn't spoken since the last whisper either. She seemed patient, like the universe itself was giving him time to remember. Nira finally broke the silence. Captain, I've accessed the classified Sol archives. There's something you need to see. Elias turned to the console as holographic text filled the air. Ancient records. Fragmented transmissions, all tagged pre-contact era. Static filled the audio logs, but beneath it faint notes of music could be heard, a melody. Soft, haunting, and impossibly beautiful. That's her, he murmured. The song Asha said she sent, Nira nodded. These recordings were recovered from the lunar excavation 50 years ago. Nobody ever decoded them, but the tonal frequency matches Asha's current signal almost perfectly. Elias leaned closer. The music wasn't just sound, it carried emotion, warmth, longing. He could feel it. The notes rose and fell like a heartbeat. She really was there, he said quietly. We really spoke to her kind. Correction, Nira replied. You still are. He smiled faintly. Fair point. The AI paused, scanning the remaining files. Captain, I found something else. A log entry from a pre-colonial explorer, Dr. Mira Ward. Elias froze. Ward? Your ancestor, according to genetic data. She was one of the first linguists on the Beacon Project. Her final message was never decrypted. Until now. The projection flickered, revealing a tired woman speaking into an ancient camera. Her voice cracked from age and exhaustion. If anyone finds this, she said, tell her I never forgot. Tell her the promise stands. Elias's breath caught. She was talking to Asha. Nira processed silently. Then the bond wasn't just political, it was personal. Your ancestor might have shared the first connection with Asha's people. Elias turned to look at Asha's holographic image. She waited for us because she thought we remembered. All this time, she's been alone. Before Nira could respond, the air shimmered. Asha's image brightened again, her presence gentle but sure. You found it, didn't you? Elias nodded slowly. My ancestor. She spoke to you. Asha's eyes glistened like dew. Mira Ward, the first voice that reached beyond her own sky. Yes, I remember her laughter. Her courage. Her sadness when your people fell silent. Her tone softened even more. You carry her memory within you, Elias. The same blood, the same yearning to understand. Elias felt something stir deep inside, a resonance between past and present. It wasn't just knowledge. It was belonging. Asha continued, her voice almost a whisper. Do you know what your ancestor promised me? He shook his head. She said humanity would never stop reaching out, that even if the stars grew dark one day, someone would hear me again. She told me that when that day came, I should speak your name. Elias stared at her in disbelief. She knew? She believed, Asha corrected softly. And belief is a kind of knowing that defies time. Outside the viewport, the nebula shifted, its colors dancing brighter, as if the stars themselves approved. For the first time in centuries, the Accord of Solace flickered faintly to life, pulsing between two hearts separated by 1,000 years but joined by one promise. And somewhere in that light, Elias felt his ancestor's voice, gentle, distant, but proud. The nebula's colors shimmered across Elias's viewport, soft and living like the universe itself was breathing. For a moment he forgot the metal beneath his hands or the hum of his ship's engines. All he could feel was her presence, gentle, patient, waiting. Asha's voice returned, quiet as moonlight. Elias, the Accord was built not through power but through remembrance. To restore it, we must remember together. He frowned slightly. How? I barely remember what I had for breakfast, and you're asking me to recall a promise made 1,000 years ago. Her lips curved faintly, not in mockery but in warmth. Memory is more than what the mind holds. It is what the heart keeps. Will you let me show you? Elias hesitated. He didn't know what she meant. But something inside whispered that he could trust her. What do I need to do? Nothing, she said softly. Just listen. The lights on his ship dimmed. Nira flickered uncertainly, then stabilized. Captain, an energy wave is emanating from her vessel, low level, harmless, but strange. It's interacting with your neural field. Elias barely heard her. The moment Asha began to hum, the sound filled the air like dawn light spilling through an open door. It wasn't a song of words. It was a melody of memory. And suddenly Elias wasn't on his ship anymore. He stood on a field of silver grass beneath a sky filled with twin suns. A warm wind brushed his face. In the distance, tall crystalline towers shimmered, bending light like water. He could feel emotion more than sound, hope, fear, awe. Humanity's first steps beyond their cradle. And then he saw her, Asha, but younger, standing beside a woman with dark hair tied back, eyes shining with curiosity. Mira Ward, his ancestor. They were speaking, though he couldn't hear the words. He could only feel them, connection, understanding, trust. Two species meeting not as strangers, but as equals. Mira touched her chest, then reached out toward Asha. Asha mirrored the gesture. Between their palms light bloomed, soft, golden, and alive. Asha's voice echoed around him, layered with time itself. This was the Accord of Solace, the promise that your kind and mine would never stop believing in each other. The vision wavered. The field dimmed. The twin suns faded into starlight. Elias gasped and stumbled back into his ship's reality. The hum of engines returned. His pulse raced. Nira's voice was steady again. Captain, I recorded a massive energy fluctuation. Did you see something? He swallowed hard. I saw everything. The first meeting. The promise. Asha's image glowed faintly on the screen, her eyes filled with quiet pride. Now you carry the memory. The bridge is forming again. He rubbed his temples, trying to process it all. You showed me what it meant to be remembered, she nodded. And you showed me that the promise still lives. For the first time, Elias felt the truth of it, not just history, but connection. Something ancient and beautiful pulsed within him, as though humanity's forgotten song had found its way back to his soul. Nira interrupted gently. Captain, the Accord frequency is strengthening. It's forming a link between your ship and hers. I think you've reawakened it. Outside, the nebula began to move. Threads of light arched between the two vessels. glowing like golden bridges across the void. Asha lifted her gaze, awe shimmering in her eyes. It begins again. Elias stood there breathless, watching the impossible unfold, two civilizations separated by millennia, reaching out across the stars once more. And somewhere in that bridge of light, he felt Mira's presence, faint but certain, whispering, "Keep the promise." The bridge of light shimmered between the two ships, steady and warm. Elias had no words for what he saw. Streams of golden energy flowing through the vacuum of space, pulsing in rhythm with two heartbeats, one human, one alien. But beauty, he soon learned, never went unnoticed, Captain, Nira warned. Her tone sharp now, multiple warp signatures inbound. Unknown configuration, 3 vessels approaching fast. Elias's stomach tightened. Identification? None, but their transponders matched Terran origin, military fleet. He blinked. Our own people. Before she could answer, the comms crackled to life. A stern voice filled the cockpit. Captain Ward, this is Commander Hale of the Outer Systems Authority. You are ordered to shut down your transmission and power down your engines immediately. Elias frowned. On what grounds? Unauthorized contact with an unregistered alien entity. You are in violation of First Contact Preservation Protocol. Do not resist. He muted the channel, glancing at Asha's projection. They think you're a threat. Her luminous expression remained calm, though her eyes dimmed with something like disappointment. Fear has always been your kind's shadow. Elias exhaled. They don't understand. If they destroy this link, the Accord could vanish again. Nira's voice was quiet, almost sympathetic. Captain, they've locked weapons. Non-lethal energy nets, but enough to disrupt the connection. He turned toward Asha. Can you protect yourself? She shook her head. If I shield myself, it will break the bridge. The Accord must remain open to stay alive. Elias cursed under his breath. Then I'll protect it. He reopened the comm. Commander Hale, listen to me. This is not an attack. This is the rediscovery of the Accord of Solace. This contact could change everything. The reply was immediate and cold. You've been compromised, Captain. Step away from the transmission. Asha spoke softly, her tone serene despite the danger. Elias, you do not have to fight them. Let me go, he shook his head. No, I won't lose you, not again. Her expression softened, sadness and warmth interwoven. You sound like her. Mira said the same before the silence. Something in his chest ached at that. Then I'll do what she couldn't. I'll keep the promise. Nira's lights flickered. Captain, Fleet is powering up disruptors. We have 30 seconds. Elias looked at the glowing bridge between them, fragile, beautiful, and alive. He took a breath. If they destroy this link, they destroy the only memory left of who we used to be. Asha tilted her head. Then remind them. It was then Elias made a choice, not of logic, but of faith. He opened the ship's broadcast channel to all frequencies and said, his voice steady and full, to any ship listening, this is Captain Elias Ward of Terra. I've made contact with the one who answered humanity's first message to the stars. She's not our enemy. She's our history. Static filled the comms. Then a young voice replied, uncertain, Captain, is it true? You found her? Before he could respond, the fleet's disruptors fired. The golden bridge trembled, flickered, dimmed. Asha's image wavered, her outline breaking like glass under pressure. Elias, she called, her voice strained through the interference. Hold to the memory, don't let it fade. He reached toward the fading light, helpless as the glow shattered into fragments across the void. And then, in the silence that followed, the stars themselves seemed to dim. Nira's voice was quiet. The Accord, it's collapsing. Elias closed his eyes. No, it's remembering. Because even as the light vanished, he could still feel her presence in his chest, soft, constant, like the echo of a promise too strong to die. Darkness filled the viewport where the golden bridge had once glowed. The nebula, once radiant, now looked dull, like the color had been drained from the stars themselves. Elias sat in silence, his hand still hovering over the console. Nira's light flickered faintly, her voice a whisper. Connection lost. Asha's signal. Gone, he swallowed hard. No. I can still feel her. Captain, telemetry doesn't support. I don't care about the numbers, Nira. She's still there. He closed his eyes. In the back of his mind, faint and fragile, he could still hear the echo of her voice. Hold to the memory. Commander Hale's image appeared on the screen. Captain Ward, stand down and prepare for escort. You've compromised your vessel and violated federal protocol. Elias turned toward the camera, his face calm but resolute. Commander, listen to me. What we destroyed wasn't a threat. It was the living memory of our first contact. The Accord wasn't technology. It was trust. And we just tore it apart. Hale's expression hardened. You're speaking nonsense. Whatever it was, it endangered this fleet. No, Elias said quietly. It reminded us who we were. Before Hale could respond, Nira interrupted. Captain, anomaly detected. The nebula's energy field is reorganizing itself. The entire ship trembled slightly. Outside, soft waves of light began to gather. Tiny golden sparks that swirled like fireflies. One by one, they drifted toward Elias's ship, wrapping it in a gentle glow. Hale's voice came through again, edged with disbelief. What is that? Elias's heart pounded. It's her. She's still trying to reach us. He stood and walked toward the viewport. Asha, if you can hear me, guide me. Tell me what to do. A single spark of light detached from the nebula and hovered before the glass. It pulsed once, twice, then flared bright. Nira's systems picked it up immediately. Captain, the signal frequency matches the old Accord resonance. It's rebuilding itself. Elias smiled faintly. The Accord remembers. He opened a direct broadcast to the fleet. You see that light? That's the memory of every human who ever dared to look beyond their own sky. She's not attacking. She's reaching out, just like we did. Silence filled the comms. Then one by one, the other ships powered down their disruptors. Commander Hale's voice returned, quieter now. Captain, what is she saying? Elias looked out at the light and whispered. She's asking if we still remember her. And then, faintly, like wind through distant stars, Asha's voice returned. Not loud, not clear, but steady. Elias, the bridge lives. Through faith. Nira's sensors flickered. Captain, the golden particles are linking with our communication relays. They're rewriting themselves into a stable energy network. Elias didn't hesitate. Let it happen. The light pulsed brighter, flowing between the ships, human and alien alike, forming a web of glowing lines that stretched across the darkness. Every vessel became a spark in the network. Every human aboard felt something stir, a warmth, a memory of wonder long forgotten. Asha's voice grew stronger. Now you understand. The Accord was never meant to bind our worlds with laws. It was meant to bind our hearts with remembrance. Elias smiled, eyes glistening. Then it's time we start remembering again. Outside, the nebula blazed with new color, vibrant, alive. The light of connection, reborn after 1,000 years. Nira spoke softly. Captain, the Accord frequency is stabilizing. It's beautiful. Elias nodded, whispering to the stars. Welcome back, Asha. And somewhere, carried through the living light, her reply came. Gentle and full of joy. I never left. The nebula glowed once more, not with cold fire but with warmth, alive, radiant, breathing like a heart. Streams of gold and silver danced between ships, weaving a tapestry of light that stretched far into the void. Elias stood at the viewport, awe reflected in his eyes. It's beautiful, he whispered. Nira's voice trembled with quiet wonder. The Accord is no longer just a link between two ships. It's spreading across every network, every sensor. The whole Terran fleet is part of it now. Elias nodded, because belief spreads faster than any signal. And then through that shimmering bridge, Asha's image returned. Clearer than before, her expression serene yet filled with emotion. You did it, Elias Ward of Terra, you remembered. He smiled faintly. Not just me. We did. Asha's gaze softened. For 1,000 of your years, I waited in silence, believing the light of your kind would return. I had almost given up hope. Elias shook his head. You never stopped believing. That's what kept the Accord alive. Her eyes gleamed like twin suns. And you, child of Mira Ward, rekindled it. The promise your ancestor made was not just between two people, but between two species. Humanity's voice once lost sings again. Across the comms, Commander Hale spoke quietly, his tone changed. Captain Ward, what happens now? Elias looked toward Asha's ship, its luminous hull shining like dawn. Now we begin again, this time with open hearts. The golden light rippled outward, traveling faster than any human technology could explain. Neera's readouts filled with impossible data. Captain, the Accord energy is expanding exponentially. It's transmitting to other systems. I think it's reaching her people. Asha closed her eyes. They will hear it, and they will know the promise was kept. Moments later, the stars shifted. Out of the distance, faint silhouettes emerged, ships of silver and crystal, gliding through the void like graceful wings of light. Asha turned, and for the first time her face shone with pure joy. "My people," she whispered. "They've come." Elias could feel the history of it all. The first contact reborn, the silence broken. The old fear replaced with something eternal, understanding. The largest of the alien ships sent out a pulse of radiant light, bathing the Terran fleet in color. Across the comms, human voices gasped, some crying, some laughing. There was no fear now, only awe. Asha turned to Elias, her tone gentle, reverent. "You have fulfilled the accord. The memory will live forever in both our hearts. But now I must return with my people." His chest tightened. "Will I ever see you again?" Her expression softened, full of quiet affection. "When you look at the stars, you already do. Every light in the sky is a memory of those who dared to reach beyond themselves. And you, Elias, you reminded the universe how to hope again." He felt a lump in his throat. "Goodbye, Asha." She smiled, a smile that felt like sunrise after 1,000 years of night. "Not goodbye, just until the next remembering." Her image faded into light. The golden web around the ship slowly dissolved, but the warmth it left behind lingered, inside every heart that witnessed it. Neera's voice broke the silence.
"Captain, the Accord energy has stabilized."
"It's part of our communication grid now. Humanity will never forget again." Elias sat quietly, watching the stars return to their calm glow. For the first time, space didn't feel empty. It felt alive, he whispered softly, almost to himself. "We kept the promise." And somewhere, far beyond the nebula, a faint voice echoed through the cosmos, gentle, eternal and proud. Yes, Elias, Ward of Terra, humanity remembered.